Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is consider. Let's take a look at some of the definitions or ways that you can use this verb. The first way you might hear the verb consider used is to mean to think carefully about something. And generally, this thinking is occurring before you make a big decision. A second way to use the verb consider is to mean to believe or to think something. A third way you might see the verb consider used is to mean to take something into account when you are making an assessment or some type of judgment. A fourth way you might also see the verb consider used is to mean to look attentively at something. You should know that consider is a regular verb. To make the progressive tense, all we need to do is add ing to form considering. The past tense and participle forms of this verb will be made by adding ed. The base verb, consider, ends in this voiced R sound, so our ed is just going to make a D sound. Considered. Considered. You'll be happy to know that there are no additional meanings or uses with phrasal verbs, so that will allow us to spend more time practicing a couple different verb tenses. And all this week, the videos are going to focus on some differences between the active and passive voice. I always think it's helpful to have a little review of that. So you may remember that active voice sentences begin with the person or the thing that is responsible for the action. So two examples of that could be Tim cleans the house each week. Leslie writes notes. Both of these sentences are in the simple present. They're describing habits, routines in this particular instance. Now, sentences in the passive voice are going to begin with the person or the thing that is acted on. Sometimes you'll read about this as being described the person or the thing receiving the action. And if you like studying grammar too, you might hear this referred to as the object. The person that is responsible, though, for doing the action, they may not be included in the sentence, or if they're included, their name or their description is going to come at the end of the sentence after the preposition by. So if I look back at my two active voice examples, Tim cleans the house each week, I can make that passive by saying the house is cleaned. I could say the house is cleaned by Tim each week, and that would be fine. The second sentence, Leslie writes notes. I could say notes are written. I could also say notes are written by Leslie. Both of those are examples of passive voice sentences. Now, many students always want to know, why do we have active and passive? And this just makes it more complicated. And you're right, it can a little bit, but there is sort of a purpose behind having this passive voice. So sometimes we don't know who is responsible for doing the action. That might be one reason people use passive voice. Sometimes the person who is responsible for the action just isn't that important. And sort of connected to that, the writer or the speaker really wants to emphasize that object, so the person or the thing receiving the action. And so by starting the sentence with that object, they're calling greater attention to it. Another reason you might hear some people use it, particularly in situations maybe where something didn't go well, this could be a way to avoid blaming somebody. If we just say mistakes were made, right, instead of you made a mistake, right, that might seem a little softer, gentler, perhaps a bit more polite. So now with that review in mind, we're going to make some active voice and passive voice sentences using our verb of the day, consider. And today we're going to focus on the simple present. As I said before, we use this when we're describing habits and routines. We also use it to describe facts. So let's take a look at our affirmative examples in active and then passive voice. In active voice, simple present, our base verb, consider, will just be used when the subject is I, you, we, or they. If our subject is singular, so he, she, it, then we need to add an S to our verb. And you're going to see that in this first example. The doctor considers the patient to be in critical condition. So this could be that tying back to that the second definition about thinking, believing, making some sort of judgment or assessment could also sort of apply to this particular sentence. Now, we know the doctor is responsible for the action of consider, and there's just one here, so we've got that S on the base verb. If you look at the passive sentence, though, the patient is considered to be in critical condition. And again, here you might encounter this sentence because it really doesn't matter who said this, right? Particularly if it's your friend, a family member, a loved one of some kind, right? You're focused on the patient, right? That's where we want our attention to go to in this particular sentence. So to make passive voice affirmative in the simple present, you'll see that I'm using a present form of be, so am, is, are, and then I'm using the participle form of the verb, so our ed form, since this is a regular verb. Now let's take a look at a negative example first in the active voice. To make negative simple present sentences, I'm going to use do not, and then the base verb, or does not, and the base verb. You might hear the contraction form don't or doesn't. Here is an example sentence. The IRS doesn't consider the stimulus checks to be income. So if you're living here in the United States, you may have received a stimulus check or a direct deposit connected to providing some financial relief for all the economic troubles that people have encountered due to the pandemic. And there are a lot of questions about those checks, who gets them, and oh my goodness, am I going to have to pay tax on that money? So here you're getting a little bit of tax advice. The stimulus checks are not part of taxable income. Said another way, though, in the passive voice, right, we would say the stimulus checks aren't considered income by the IRS. Now, IRS stands for Internal Revenue Service. It is the entity or government agency that is responsible for making sure people pay their taxes and file tax returns. Now, if I want to make a yes or no question in the active voice in the simple present, I'm going to start with do or does. Then I'll have my subject and then the base verb. Here's another example. Do doctors consider your grandparents to be high risk for COVID due to their age? Okay, so we know who is responsible for this action. Again, I feel like I've heard lots of examples with doctors and what they think, believe, what sort of judgments they're making. So in the passive voice, though, to ask a yes or no question, I'm going to start with my form of be, so am or is or are, and then we're going to have that object come next, and then the participle form of the verb. Are your grandparents considered high risk for COVID due to their age? Okay. And with both of those, we could say either yes, they are, no, they aren't, or in the active voice, yes, they do, or no, they don't. Now, let's take a look at some words and a phrase that is related to our verb consider. The first word we're going to look at today is the noun consideration. It can have a few different meanings. We're just going to focus on one today. So many times when you hear consideration used, it means careful thought. And generally, this thought or the process of thinking is done over a period of time. So it's not something quick. Here's an example of how you might hear this noun used in a sentence. We will give your proposal consideration. Okay, so again, this idea, there's going to be thought. Might be some reading, reviewing, all connected to this. We're not going to make a quick decision. Another related word is the adverb considerably. It means by a notably large amount or to a notably large extent. Another synonym for this word might be greatly. You might see that more often. But here's an example of how this adverb is used in a sentence. Telemedicine use has increased considerably during the pandemic. So telemedicine is referring to sort of having a video visit with a doctor or other medical professional. And not surprisingly, when we were all being told to stay home, not a shock here that sort of these video doctor appointments have increased by a large amount, by a noticeable amount. The last thing we're going to look at today is the phrase, all things considered. And really what this means is taking everything into account. So you're likely to hear this in conversation. And I heard it recently as some people were talking and someone was asking, well, how's your business been, right? Because we know so many businesses have struggled during the pandemic. The person responded, business has been pretty good, all things considered. So considering we have a pandemic, considering natural disasters that have occurred in my particular area, you know, even with all of those total things in place, business is still pretty good. I'll note as well that you might hear this phrase, all things considered, as part of a radio show. It's a news program that's on national public radio, and I think the purpose of this title is to, again, ask us to think about, right, all the different sources, all the different places where news may be coming, and trying to consider it all. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you have a great day.